literally a warehouse with some covered beams because there's nowhere for these kids to play indoor. And the places that are there are full, they're capacitated. The adult leagues start at 11 p.m. So that money is being spent. It's just not being spent in Lemont. So we are going to have lunch between games. We are shopping at those shops because we have 2 hours between tournaments, and that money is not being spent in this town. It's being spent in Darien, it's being spent in Homer, it's being spent in Chicago, it's being spent in Bridgeview, it's being spent, and we need to spend it here. If you sincerely want to see that downtown area grow, we have to do something. I'm tired of watching it dwindle, and we have to. And if this is what it is, then let's do it. And if you want me to get people that support this going to show you guys that we support this, call me and I'll let you do it. I'll do that. But I do think it's a possibility. I'm willing to hear you out. I'm willing to hear anybody out. But I trust that you are going to do what you need to do to make sure that everything is taken care of, to make sure that it is a success. Because if it is, it will be a game changer for this town. And that's my thought.
Thank you, Michelle.
First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight on this cold, brutal winter night. Mayor, Board, I would like to have that 3-minute limit lifted for the remainder of all the comments. Because many of us, yes, we had to shovel our driveways to get out here. And it took me more than 3 minutes to drive here. So please give us the time and the respect that we deserve to voice our opinions. If you truly believe in a democracy, then you will give us that chance to have our say.
30 seconds.
Okay, just want to go over the background again, how this all started. January 28th, 2013, that's almost 1 year ago, the village board adopted an ordinance authorizing the process to issue alternate revenue source bonds to fund the Lemont Sports Complex project. Because this type of bond has a statutory ability to be levied on residents' tax bills if all other pledged existing revenue sources prove to be insufficient to cover debt service, the bond has a petition process built into it that allows for residents to send the question to referendum for the residents to consider the bonds. Subsequent to the passage of the ordinance, several residents exercised this petition option, and in order to utilize this type of bond, a successful referendum would be required. So, on February 27, 2013, we submitted 185 pages of signatures with this cover letter. Attached with this cover sheet are 185 bound, notarized pages containing 1,657 Lemont voter signatures of the 785 minimum requirement in response to ordinance adopted January 28, 2013, and publicly announced February 1st, 2013. My question for all of you, Jeanette, Ron, even George, our village administrator, Cliff, Paul, Debbie, Brian, what did you do with these petitions after we submitted them? According to the meeting minutes and the agendas, it was not discussed until, I believe it says here on October 21st, it was on the agenda for discussion of sports complex. But there were no notes on this or anything like that, October 21st. And then we find out January 3rd, there's a meeting. Today, January 6th. So I took the liberty to call Cook County and found out that The last day to adopt a resolution or ordinance for binding advisory public question was December 30th, 2013. Okay, so, this does not make sense. And we hear people saying that they want to trust you. I'm finding it very hard trusting you because what you're saying is not lining up with what the law reads or what is required of this board. We were out there in the snow.
That's 4 minutes.
Collecting
I'll let you
signatures.
have 1 more minute.
Oh, please.
That's it. That's going to
Please,
be
just
1 more
let me
minute.
talk.
1
Now,
minute.
the 3 minutes,
One minute.
there's
Have mine.
nothing in the law
One more
that
minute.
says that
Yes, there is.
residents only have 3
Yes, there
minutes to
is.
talk.
Just-
Could you
it's-
please show me that?
If you
No,
got.
we have the
you're down
right
to
as
50
citizens
40 minutes.
to
If that's,
speak our
I'll
mind.
stop.
And I
I'll
just asked a
stop.
question.
It's fine. I will stop.
I'm
We'll take
asking
a vote.
questions, we want answers.
I will take a
And
vote. I'm telling you
also,
right now.
I
You
think before,
Janet, just
You got
finish
30
off.
seconds.
Janet,
Finish
just
up.
Finish off.
please let us vote on
got
this.
30 seconds.
Let us have the information that we want, show us the facts, show us the paperwork. We want to see what this is all about. We have a right to know. After all, we are the taxpayers. Thank you.
Stephanie Kovasak, 16 Liberty Drive. I'm making it short and sweet. I know that you said that you have a lot of supporters for the Sportsplex. This lady took my thunder away because she did show up and say she was for it. So you do have a few here, I guess. I don't know.
Intimidating, to be honest.
Yeah, but I would say the majority of these people are against the Sportsplex. And my question is, if you're so confident about this, why is it that you call this meeting on the worst night possible when everything in Lemont is closed? And then you see all these people that are seated here, irregardless of representation of all those petitions that were signed against what's happening, against what your plans are to have the Sportsplex. And yet, you say that this is a democracy and we should trust you. It looks very suspicious to me. Thank you.
Kevin Ryan, 1235 Wild Oak. Haven't lived in town that long, so this is kind of interesting for me to see how this plays out. So I can't necessarily say I'm for or against because I haven't done the details on it, but what I can say is that something needs to be done. Being young, just moving here from the city, I gotta tell you, someone said competition. Well, this town competes with other towns for people to move here. So you say taxes and raising taxes if this thing fails, well, you're looking at it the wrong way. We need to have investment in this town to drive other things, other tax revenues to the town, businesses, commercial. This is a dying downtown area. To get people into town, you have to put up a sign that says video gaming. Is that what you want your town to be? To get people into town with video gaming signs? So what we need to do,
Folks, it's his time to talk.
this is my time to talk, because I think you may have lived here for a while, but you have to find a way to get people to move to this town. Young people. People that are going to decide to go to Downers Grove, they're not going to come to this town. So I will do my homework, and I will research the project in its entirety. But I think what you have to look at is, there are some questions that need to be answered, certainly. And I think we need to get behind the board to find the answers to those questions. To get with the Water Reclamation District, to find the feasibility of, this $21 million facility. Well, exactly. Maybe it isn't fertile ground to build an institution on. But I think what we owe it to advance the town, to advance the community, to be competitive, to find other sources of revenue, we have to look open-minded and globally upon this subject. That's all I have to say. I think there's a little bit more negativity that needs to be on this project, and I kind of support it. And if you're doing a citizens advisory, I'd love to join.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Rick Lightheart, 525 6th Street. Brian, I disagree wholeheartedly. The issue is not about more money. We've seen more money all the time. The issue is cutting costs. To start on an initiative to build a sports complex for more money is the wrong strategy. As board members, you need to look at cutting costs. All due respect, Chief Shaughnessy, I think your pension's out of line. George, I think your pension's out of line. I think every school teacher and fireman's pension's out of line. That's why Illinois is in such debt, because the pensions are out of line. And now we're trying to raise more money to do what? For more government employees so we can cover those pensions. Brian, you just said it. The issue is not about more money, with all due respect. It's not about revenues via taxes. It's about the capitalistic system working and less government. I highly encourage the board to look for cost-cutting initiatives. Fewer police officers, fewer firemen, fewer school, fewer of all of these things, which increase our costs. There's no doubt in Illinois, if you read the Tribune on Sunday, Mike Madigan's machine. Mike Madigan's been in office all these years, and Illinois is in its worst shape. There's no doubt. This is not brain science here. We're in a mess because these pensions are out of line. And I appreciate the board trying to create more income. And I'm saying that your strategy of creating more income via taxes and government products that compete in the private sector, it's wrong. So for me, this is an ethical issue. This is the issue of raising money. And I've seen this over time because that's what my career has been, cutting costs. I've done it in churches, I've done it in ministries, I've done it in businesses. And now I see the public sector, the government sector, not understanding how to cut costs. That's the issue. I really don't care if we get a sports complex or not. If it does fine, that's irrelevant. To me, the core issue is what's at stake here is the way we're looking at this. It's always about greed, 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 more money, more pensions. One of my school teachers is going to retire with a pension, about $180,000 a year. I think the superintendent from the high school district's got a $216,000 a year pension. That's out of line. That's out of line. And now we have to pay for that. And so what I'm saying, board, go back. Before you vote to go ahead on this project, forget the financing, whether it's debt or bonds, is pretty much irrelevant. Okay? Debt is debt. Go back, search your hearts, and see if you can find another way to just start cutting our costs so we can, as taxpayers, so it doesn't come out of our bags. That's what I'm saying. And I want to close with this. Maybe people don't want a Naperville in Lemont. Maybe we don't want this type of lifestyle for our village. Personally, I don't. I like the downtown Lemont. I go to every one of those restaurants every weekend, maybe 2 or 3 times. And I like how it is. I like the smallness. That's why I came here. I didn't come here to be a Burr Ridge or a Naperville. That's why I like living in Lemont, because I don't have that big stuff. I don't want it. In closing, this is called the Village of Faith. It's the Village of Faith. I'm going to caution everybody in this room. Be very cautious when you mess with God and you even broach on a part of deceit, whether it's with the board or we as taxpayers. Be very, very careful. We are the Village of Faith. And if you don't think God has a place here in how we're operating, whether it's deceit or openness, be very cautious. I'm not preaching here, but I'm telling you, if you start messing with this stuff like some of these politicians have done in Illinois, there will be a consequence to pay. And it's not going to come from the taxpayers. That's not up to me to decide. So my encouragement, please, take a look at your costs and cut those costs before you invent something like this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave Marseille, 1370 Overton Drive. I would just like to see the latest proposal for what the sports center is going to look like, see what the amenities are. Last year it was indoor and outdoor soccer fields, I think, and there were 2 basketball courts. One of the concerns I have is that the basketball courts themselves might replicate what's in the core, what's in the school districts already. And if you start competing against other government agencies in Lemont, then it's going to hurt them and it's going to hurt us as a village. However, you mentioned about a citizen advisory board. I think that's a great idea because there are people here that have ideas. One of the ideas I have is maybe to do something where you have a part of the facility that's designed for children under the age of 6. Why? Because if you can find an avenue to daycare centers, not just in Lemont, but surrounding communities to come in for like tumbler exercises. And I can't give you the specifics for businesses in the private sector to do this, but they've got blow up things you can climb on that kids really, really like. And we don't have anything like that in Lemont. But if you have something like that for little kids, you then get demand for the sports center from an area you may not have looked at. What about retirement communities, active retirement communities that have people that they're not infirmed, but they might want to do something as well. And then those boats likewise are available during the day. When you talk about the soccer field, you're talking about summers, night times, and weekends. What you have to start looking at is what else can we put in the sports center that can facilitate other groups of population besides kids between the ages of, say, 10 and 18. That's probably your soccer generation right there. It's not going to be people in their 30s or people in their 60s. But if you're going to put a sports center together, start looking at diversifying what goes in there so you can pull out of different areas, not just in Lemont, but the surrounding communities where there's actual gaming. I've always thought retirement communities that are active in nature, those places have people that work on staff looking for things for the elderly to do. So have you thought about putting a facility within this structure that caters to that? You might get 5 days a week when otherwise this facility is empty. Same with the preschool kids. Things like that. That's why you do need an advisory committee. Another opportunity that might be out there is, it's Roger Ebert. I know he passed away recently, but in Chicago, there's the Gene Siskel Theater, and it seats 197 people in Theater A and 61 people in Theater B. I just looked at that internet before I came here. Okay, so that's like 250 seats. You have an outdoor arena on last year's proposal that seats 3,000 for 36 events. What if you were to do something with the widow of Mr. Ebert to try and facilitate a structure, again, multi-purpose, it wouldn't just be sports, but you could do something potentially right there to put yourself on the map throughout Chicago and replicate what the Gene Siskel Theater is doing. And then you can tie that in with other high schools besides Lemont where they have cinema classes. Ideas like this. I mean, if we're going to have a discussion about investing this kind of money, let's get that advisory board together and really put some ideas in so you can expand your base. By the way, I'm going to be at all the Lemont basketball games. I know 2 of you here go to those games. If you want to talk, I'll be in the stands.
My name is Richard Hager. I live at 414 Hillview Court. I don't think anyone is concerned about whether or not it would be concerned if they knew this project was going to be a success. I think everybody's concerned that maybe it won't be. My question is if this was being done by a private concern, the first thing that they would do is a marketing study that would define how big the marketplace is, how many people can potentially come here, how much money is involved, and whether or not it's going to live for a significant period of time. My question is if this information exists, why don't you publish it and let the voters see it so they can understand financially, unemotionally, why this is going to be a success.
It's actually online. It's on the village website right now. That, we have to have that market analysis had to be done before you can even go out for any type of bond hearing. So that's actually on the website right now.
Victor Fisher, 664 4th Street, Lemont. Basically, what we're concerned with is the right to vote on this. We're so afraid of another Bridgeview or Sauk Village, where money is being put into something that all of a sudden, heaven forbid, does not give the profit expected. And all of a sudden, the taxpayers are footing the bill. That's what we're afraid of. Let us vote. Thank you.
Arlene Bergman, 7 Kettering Lane. I went and I collected over 200 signatures for those petitions. All I'm asking is to please consider the residents that have signed those petitions asking for their right to vote on this. I've been in Lemont and I want my right to vote on this. And all those people should get their right. We said the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. Please, let these people speak for themselves. Thank you.
My name's Kevin Cliff. I live at 3 West Wend. It was about a year ago when I was reading in the Lemont paper that the $21 million complex was going to be entertained as an idea. And I contacted a person that was on one of the comments below and went out and collected some signatures, which I'd never ever done before. And subsequent to that, I've written into the patch a couple times, which I've never done before either. Let me just preface that I have no problem about, if there's a complex built down there, I think it's great, but my main concern is that I think private industry should do it. I really don't think government should be in the business of doing business. I was looking at this ordinance here, which was just passed a year ago, and now you want to build, unpass it, or whatever the correct word would be. So, I just don't understand the back and forth. It almost seems like fiat, just, as you're going along, okay, we're going to change it to this or that. And so, I just, and I see so much resistance. I think that all of you are up there as public servants, and you really should be listening to the will of the people. I think we should look upon our public service like Cincinnatus did back in Roman times, where he was called off the farm, came in to become a dictator. 12 days later, turned it back over and went back to the farm. He didn't want the power, he just served the people. And I think that we have to look at that, and I just don't see where this, I think if a private industry, like I said, wants to do it, they do it, great, have at it, but otherwise I don't see where I should be possibly on the tax book for it. And it really doesn't matter to me if the project should be a success or a failure, but I think it should be the risk and reward of a private enterprise. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Jared Butler, 335 Logan Street. I've only lived in Lemont 3 years now, maybe 4. Family here, got a son. I've read through the MFA. I've read your FAQs that were posted from February. As previously mentioned, the idea of trying to diversify the sportsplex, it looks like there is at least the start of that in there, the idea of the splash pad, the idea of connecting into the pathways along the canal. But at the end of the day, it is, as a citizen, it is hard to follow in on it and really support it for that simple fact of the what ifs. I worked in logistics, I've worked in distribution, and I know you always have to deal with that what if stuff. What if someone steals? What if someone breaches security? What if there's a break-in? What if there's a fire? What if there's an earthquake? And what I'm hearing a lot of in this room is a lot of, well, what if this doesn't work? Or what if we're not targeting this correctly? And I really think the idea of having the Citizen Advisory Board would probably be a really good exercise, simply to just do risk analysis. Someone mentioned earlier, like, what if we had something posted on the village website where people could just literally go and post their concerns. What if this happens, or how is this going to be addressed? Just so we can try to come up with mitigation plans. I mean, even if it's preliminary, even if it's not set in stone, something that says, yes, we've considered it, and we know that luck tends to favor the prepared. So right now, and I think a lot of people feel this way, it doesn't really feel prepared. It doesn't feel like all the T's have been crossed and the I's have been dotted, and it makes a lot of people really nervous. I mean, even in the 3 years that I've been here, I've seen my taxes go up pretty considerably. So the idea of a failure that could impact that negatively is really kind of stressful to think about. So I guess if there's anything that I would like to impart is put some of our fears to rest. Do some sort of risk analysis. Open up the floor to let people express what their concerns are. Is it getting ambulances in the event of an emergency, or fire department? The discussion about the parking, or people concerned about the contamination of the land, and maybe more information on the taco tiering. Making that more public. Really sell it through that information, because it just feels, as people have said, shrouded, hidden, back doors, secrets. That's how it feels. And a lot of times perception is reality. I don't want to say that is the truth, but that's perception. So I would really like to see that perception change simply by knowing, or being given the opportunity to ask those questions. Well, what if this happens? Do we know what we're going to do, or how we're going to address it?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Jeff Burklow, 91 Timberline Drive. I've been in Lemont for about 10 years. I appreciate everything you guys are trying to do to get businesses in the lot. That's what the board is supposed to do. But it seems like there was a vote there was a petition that was signed, it was passed, and now because you guys don't like the outcome, you want to change it. That's not right. Let us vote. Let us make sure. If you're so passionate about this, then it's going to be worth the vote. Let the people vote. If it comes to fruition, I hope it's a success, because it's gonna help everybody. But and for all these people to come out on the worst night of the year, I think it means something, and it should be noticed. And I really appreciate everything you guys are trying to do, but this isn't right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Seeing none, do the trustees want to make any other comments before roll call?
Could I have a
Pardon me?
I just have one piece. When I asked you about the total interest charge, you said you'd get back to me somehow. How can I find out, when can I find out what the interest charge will be? Because I want that to be known to the people.
Yep, thank you, sir. Yeah, I've been compiling all the questions, and we'll get answers to the questions online, along with the other questions that were
So you will?
presented to the mayor. Yep, it'll be put online.
Online?
Correct. Yep.
Thank you.
No problem.
Again, any trustees want a moment? Not? No?
First, yeah, no.
Okay.
All right, where do we start?
We got 3 minutes.
You know, I guess I want to stress that this is, we keep calling it a sports complex. And what we're looking to create, and again, like Brian said, this is an if. It's an economic device to create a greater value for our downtown area and for the surrounding areas of Lemont. An economic device. It could very well be a factory with 300 employees.
That'd be better.
It could even be a pancake house. How about that? A little valuable lesson, and most of you may know this already, and maybe you don't. Look at a map and look at our town. We live in a donut. We're surrounded by real estate. To the north, Argonne National Labs. To the west, Citgo. To our south, we've got an annexation agreement with Homer Glen. We can't expand down that way. To our east, Questern Estates and the Forest Preserve. So, as you know, in order to get people to come in, you become a destination. So that's what this town is considered right now. It's a destination. We have to drive traffic to come into this community. I read the paper. I read the posts. I know all of you who have been posting on it. I read all that stuff. Hey, I'm human. I'm just like you. I hear Trader Joe's. I hear Buffalo Wild Wings. I hear Panera Bread. Do you realize what that takes to get a person or a business like that in this town?